Welcome to the audio experience of KimberlySueIverson.com, a redhead rewriting reality and multi-genre author. I am your host, Kimberly Sue Iverson, and today I'll be sharing with you a story that's close to my heart. If you prefer to read along or explore more stories, visit my website at KimberlySueIverson.com. This audio experience is for an adult audience. Themes and topics may not be appropriate or suitable for all audiences, so listener and viewer discretion is advised. Now, get yourself comfy as we dive into today's tale. So many decisions. There is so often these moments in life where we get to a point we don't think something will ever happen to us, where we don't ever feel like what we are seeking we will find. But what happens if we find it and then we end up having multiple decisions to make around it? We don't just get a chance at it, but we could have a chance at a few different paths to it. What happens when we go from having 0 choices to multiple? And if it involves people, it can be a struggle because there are feelings involved, emotions too. Whether we're playing a game and can only choose one more, but many want to play, whether, as in the case of my last post, we're playing a game like Pirates of the Caribbean, and we end up having to turn people away who want to join our alliance. I had that fun experience back when I first started it. I've since decided to focus my attention elsewhere too. One tires of dealing with certain things in those games. There are so many times in life we could go from having no decisions to having multiple to make. So how do we choose? How do we say, this one? This is the one. This is the path I need to take. Time is obviously a huge component. Patience, trust, time to properly weigh decisions around it. You have to ask yourself, is this the right path for me? Will this give me what I seek and need? It's important at that point then to figure out what it is you need, what will fulfill you. More so, if it's a big decision, because it wouldn't be right to make a big decision without weighing pros and cons anyway, would it? Not so much. Be like buying a car because it's pretty and suddenly find out it has the worst crash ratings, is super expensive, and is being recalled for 1,000,000 reasons, including safety hazards. Not entirely smart. I find myself facing just that sort of decision too. And because I can't seem to get enough of Stone and Ellie lately, or my comparisons toward that story, I could even say Ellie was faced with that too, when she had to decide whether or not to trust Stone, Jack, Jeremiah, more so Stone. By the way, these characters are in my Guardian of Life world. All Ellie had known from Stone for her entire life was that he was a dangerous man. When she was a teenager, she was starting to attach to him in a way he didn't like, and he didn't think that would be appropriate. Because for him, He kept telling her he wasn't her savior. Over and over, he would tell that to her, to the point he became a broken record. It was more than that, though. He'd known this girl since before she was born. When she was a child, his possession over her was a pull to her he didn't understand, and figured it was simply a guardian type of pull, right? Then, as she grew up, it could cross lines for people, but he never took that role as her father. It was a guardian. He didn't raise her like a father would. He didn't tend to her as a father. He wanted to keep her safe and protect her. He guided her. He taught her. But there was a line he never crossed with her. I believe that's why that other aspect was able to develop, and she was the main issue. He'd seen something in her growing. Ellie was pulled into him. He was so closed off, but not to her. When Ellie looked at him, she saw a kindred soul, wide open to her own. Nothing was off limits, except for his feelings. I believe Stone did it to protect himself, not her. Oh, I'm sure he believed he was protecting her, but he was protecting himself. So if he lost her, well, he only thought he was keeping those things to himself. Because when he looked at her, she was his sunshine, the light of his life. When Stone looks at Ellie, he sees life itself. It just hit me. Stone created her. Stone poured everything into keeping her safe, providing her a good life, taking care of her. Ellie is life because he gave it to her. She is sunshine because he made her so. Everything inside of Stone was poured into that woman since before she was born. Ellie is Ellie because of Stone, because of Jeremiah and Jack, but most because she is an extension of Stone and an expression of his solid, pure commitment to her, to keeping her safe, to his devotion. She is the light that shines, and he is the power behind it. That day in the office was a turning point for him because he'd seen her beginning to grow up and feel things toward him she shouldn't. The only way he could think to abruptly turn her away was to slap her, instill a fear and hatred so deep she would never overcome it. Problem was, when you do something just to do it, and it's fake, eventually the truth comes out. Eventually, all you hoped to hide will not be held in longer. It wasn't. Ellie's attraction to Stone and his to hers only grows and grows because he is everything she needed. He is always there, a beast through and through, also one she can't push around, and who doesn't try to appease her. He knows what's best for her and always has. So he knows her and knows her well. That's Ellie's baseline. When everything comes to a head, though, that slap and a lifetime of stone, constantly acting as if he wasn't her friend. He wasn't anything to her. Despite when night came and she began pushing him harder and harder with her gifts and with her cravings. He was the only one who didn't balk at her, demanding him to push her limits. In this story, she has 3 husbands. You'll have to grab the stories to find out more around that whole complicated aspect. But in the books, Ellie doesn't know if she can trust them, let alone Stone. She is faced with that decision, and it's not easy for her. No decision like that is. That's the point we have to gut check. The point where we have to check in with ourselves and actually go, is this the right path? Is this where I should go? How do I even know? For me, I brought up the time and trust aspects and patience with self to figure it out. Which, if you're a fire sign like me, don't talk to me about patience sometimes. Because, no. Impatience is a huge thing with me. I can preach on and on about patience, but inside I'm going, come on. Some of the worst times for me around patience, I've mentioned before, is when I want something. Say, my story to be finished editing. Someone's time or attention could be another. When I need to evaluate a path being right for me, I start to go deep within myself. I try to also pull back from all of them for a moment, because then I could discern how I feel around it without it being right there. Why, when we get harassed online, it can be helpful not to be online for a time. Our brain resets, and it helps us a lot to see that situation with a clearer vision. So that's a huge one for me. Distraction from it and pulling away. Detaching from it completely. Because then if I do it when I have multiple decisions in front of me, I use my gut. I use my internal guidance. If I pull away and clear my head, where do I still feel that little whisper? I set it for when I choose a story to write from my story ideas notebook. That little whisper will say, this one. That's the whisper I listen to when I need a path. Is it always clear and pointing one way? No. That's where I give myself time and patience to evaluate. I learn all I can about each path. I pick apart what I know about path A versus path B versus path however more I have. I'm pretty good about narrowing down to just a few, no matter what it is I'm trying to decide. But I begin to ask myself, what do I need out of this? Which fulfills it most? What do I feel about each? How do I feel about it? Who am I in this path? It's like when we are getting to know someone. I'm sure you've heard the saying too. It's not about whether you work for them, but if they work for you. And more, how does this person make me feel? Do I like who I am around them? I've said it. If I'm not being seen, heard, and respected, I'm not going to be around them. Pure and simple. If they can make me laugh, though, on top of all that, if their humor matches mine, but I can also talk to them, oh gosh, I need a depth to my connections, a depth many fear going. I won't go where someone isn't ready to wrap their arms around me, hold me close, and never let me go. And they need to say it. My word, say it. Tell me that you need me in your life. Tell me that your life is better with me there. Tell me everything. Give me your soul. Bear it to me. Hold on to me and do not freaking let go at all. Smother the hell out of me with your love. If you can't, stay away from me, because you cannot handle the darkness that can and will rise in me. When the emotions drown me, you will suffocate and make me feel I should allow them to happen. So no, I no longer want lighthearted and fluffy around me. If your darkness cannot blend with mine, and if your intensity cannot match mine, we don't work. I will terrify you, and then you will terrify me, and make me feel as if something is severely wrong with me. I will not do that again. I breathe passion and intensity, and my fire will burn you down if you get close. Which means yes, my close friends circle is very small, and I am okay with that. That is the same internal guidance I use when I am faced with decisions. I gut check. I ask myself, where is that whisper coming from? Where is it pointing? Where am I being pulled in? More to ask? Is this what I need? Does it give me what I need? Who am I down the line on this path? Do I like myself? Do I like it? If I go down this path and the worst can happen and it's not what I expected, usually what we imagine is nothing like it, whether positive or negative. But if bad things happen down this path, how would I handle it? Could I? I get that many may look at all that and want to argue for just jumping in. But I am coming now from a place where I've done all that. I am not the same as I was before. I'm whatever passes for an adult. I've matured. I make decisions now based on not risky investments, but setting myself up for the future. Setting up a path that will provide for me and that I can grow on and live in. As a quote I love states, she created a life she loved. We have to create lives we love, lives we don't need to escape from, lives we don't need breaks from. Who wants to live a life where you need a vacation from it just to feel good? Is that a life worth even living? We create our life with every decision we make, with people we surround ourselves with, and with the choices we make. Which path we follow is determined by us. I wrote something once that said that I do believe in free will, but I also believe there is a set path we are meant to take. That path leads us on our highest joy and where great things happen. Free will. We still may be happy, don't get me wrong, but it's going to come at a cost too. Neither is wrong or bad, but there are paths we veer off of because we probably needed to learn a lesson. We needed to learn something when we went our own way. Eventually, though, we will get back on that path we were meant to go on. Maybe it's why we also have free will. We're choosing to learn more and gain clarity from diverting versus those who've known since birth where they were meant to go and did. I think of those child prodigies. I will describe someone who might be rare and who doesn't suffer a lot just for clarity's sake. This doesn't mean that some don't have to suffer to find their path. This is just an example, and obviously there are exceptions and plenty of diversions from it. The child prodigy is born. We will say they are good at piano. They instinctively are drawn to the piano, can read and play amazing music before they can read a book. From then on, they play and practice and continue on until they are old and have lived an amazing life because of it. These are the version of a person who is following the path they're meant to take, and they find success and fulfillment, happiness, and they affect all those they come into contact with because of it. That light they find isn't just for them. It's like a spotlight that spreads to any and all they come into contact with. Well, then there's the person, again, this is a tiny fraction of a possibility of it, but we're sticking with the same analogy as above. There's the person who may not even realize they're drawn to the piano. Randomly, they may play and enjoy it, but they go through sports instead. They choose something else. They fall in love and find themselves listening to piano music because their partner loves it. Tragedy strikes, and they're thrown into playing a piano because it brings them comfort. They don't know why they are drawn there, but they are drawn there. Suddenly, they find themselves craving it and wanting more of it. Friends tell them they are enjoying the music, and it hits them. It makes them feel something. They get distracted into not that as a path, though, but other things to do. Again, tragedy happens, and they refocus back into the space that worked best. Piano. It made sense. Instead of just playing, though, they begin to compose music to express the pain they've dealt with, or to comfort that person who said it brought them joy. They have gone on so many different diversions from free will choices that they've compiled more depth into their music that it changes the people who come into contact with it. They begin to change too. The same exact paths essentially, but also so extremely different, because one came from suffering. Their light has been created from a depth of darkness that makes their light affect all they come into contact with as well, but it comes along with stories that make people not feel so alone. The other path does too. I'm not saying it doesn't. Both paths change and brighten the world. One is predetermined and the person just doesn't need to constantly divert. It's a deep knowing that pulls them, and they are fortunate that they follow it without needing to step off that sidewalk. They are as blessed as the person who does step off that path and chooses more free will based things. And again, the first can also have free will in their path and do. It's simply their free will choices stayed the path, where another may not have, because they needed to divert. They naturally diverted. It's why we're all so different, but also why I believe in a predetermined path as much as free will. They are all the same essentially. We all just have individual journeys. My stories and your stories, they make us who we are. They change anyone we tell them to. It's why I want to tell yours too. I want to pass on even just that casual story of Christmas where you found a funny moment happen with your family, or your grandchild graduated today. I don't care what it is. If it's your story, I want to share it. I want your story to be told and heard. That's also where I base my decisions I make on. Not just my path anymore. How does this affect my life? But how does it affect those around me? Because we do not walk this path alone. No matter how alone we feel at times, we are not alone. Everything we do affects those around us. I played pirates, as I spoke on, and I made a group of friends on there who've had my back in a way that I cannot explain. When I've needed to disappear, they simply said, "Okay, we will help you." I was being bullied by this guy who had been a former friend, and I had a friend I spoke on previously privately message me the moment I was about to fall apart. I was fixing to fall, and there was his hand telling me he was right there. Not in those words, obviously, and I know it wasn't just for me, but when nobody else had been there, he was right there. Despite his alliance having been busy with their own things going on, he was right there catching me as I fell. And it was him and those people who so many had issues with who shielded me time and again from that person and never allowed him to speak ill of me in chat. Ever. They kept me close to them and ensured I was taken care of. Random people who owed me nothing. Random people who gained nothing from helping me. They went out of their way to help me, just like I've done countless times in my life. I wanted nothing in return but to help those around me. I never asked for anything. I think of that saying, what you put out comes back tenfold. When we make big decisions, they affect more than we know, too. They affect us, which affects the world. I'm not trying to weigh down a decision as if it's the biggest, most whoa thing on earth that could make or break the world. No. I believe you to be intelligent enough to understand that. What I'm saying, though, is that who we become on a path will change the life we create for ourselves. But it also does change the world. The world is smaller than we think. The things we do. Community and connection is so important. When we're faced with big decisions, it's important to ask what we want that future to look like, and which path gives us that best view. Another really great thing I heard long ago that can help you: look at your life. If it's regarding a person as the decision in your life, how is your life going since they arrived? I know that is a very oversimplified way to say it, and an extreme generalization. Hear me out. There are people who come into our life, and suddenly it's like the Midas touch has happened. Everything is working out. We are finding fortunate circumstances. We ourselves feel better about ourselves. And you see it with couples too. When they find the right person, look at them. They glow. Look at your own past and people who've come and stayed, or come and gone to see this in action if possible. Now look at others who've come and gone and left you in a whirlwind, or stuff in your life becomes more of a struggle. Again, extreme generalization here, but people have an effect on us. Are they a light in your life or dark? I've had that happen where I thought they were a great fit in my world. But I look back and realize I was struggling a lot with so much because their luck or struggles can affect us. This isn't to say people are inherently bad or bring bad luck wherever they go, because it could just be us pairing up that causes it all, but with another for us and them, things improve. So it's not, oh, they are bad luck. Oh, stay away from people who struggle. Just look at your life and what happens when someone enters and their own. Together, are you both improving and better? Or is a weight pulling you both down together? That's another good way to see things. Do they organically make you feel right, better, inspired, respected, and you the same toward them? Or the opposite? More important to note, it's okay if we make the wrong choice. We will always have another path to take. It was a learning lesson if it turns out wrong. It'll only benefit our future in the end. Everything we ever do is a learning lesson for us as much as those around us. Shall I tie it back into the point about it becoming part of our story and stories helping people? It's okay to make a wrong choice. Eventually, it will lead to the right one, because we always come back to the path. We are always led home. So when you're faced with a big decision, find that little whisper inside. Look at where it's pointing. Listen to that little whisper that says, this one. More to come. Thank you for reading and subscribing, or listening in this case. I know how valuable your time is, so it means so much that you are here, and I'm beyond grateful you chose to spend this time with me. What are your thoughts? Engage with me and start a conversation. Just don't be rude about it. If you'd like a chance for your story to be read and featured, get in touch at stories2read@KimberlySueIverson.com. A new episode and blog is dropped every Wednesday on KimberlySueIverson.com or on YouTube under Kimber Bites. That's KimberBites, Kimber Bites. And don't forget to check out my Ream subscription page. Another chapter is up. I'm releasing Guardians of the Void chapter by chapter over on Ream right now. I will be releasing my Priestess World as well soon, long before the public gets the books. You'll be able to read the chapters as I write them and help with the world. You'll get to read extra scenes that may not make the cut either. This is still being thought out on how I will, so they haven't been posted yet, but stay tuned. Also, that world is still in progress, but I have written almost 3 books. I'm nearing the end of the 3rd one. That's the one that when you follow me on social media, if you see the updates, that's the one it's about. If I actually do some writing and get all excited, that's typically the world I'm writing in. So check out reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. That's reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. That link also will be in the description box below, unless I completely forget to add it, at which point you can remind me. And if you are still listening, while I was working on this blog, recording the audio, I should say, I thought that I would do something special. Since I usually don't include a lot of my work excerpts of stuff that I work on and stuff that inspire me, or I don't share anything because I haven't been working on anything, while I recorded this audio, I thought I would include something that kind of shows what I was talking about earlier, which is Stone's focus on Ellie and just what they are like, that connection and everything. I wrote a scene that ended up becoming a free giveaway, and I put it in the back of whatever paperback I did. I think it was the last paperback, or I think I did also the back of Sofrir and Fieger of Atalantius Omega 3. Oh, that title. And you can read it there. I think I also have it on my website. But for those listening, I thought I would record the scene as well to go along with this, since I'm always talking about Stone and Ellie. They are one of my favorite couples, and Stone is maybe the top of what male characters I've written that are my favorites. Julian, Stone, and I think now Krieger from that Sofrir novel are probably my top 3, I suppose. Well, no, I mean, I adore Varric. He's a pain in the butt, but he is also a huge fave. So, this is it's kind of a scene, but it's kind of a look inside their world or a short story, whichever you really want to define it as. So bear that in mind. I put this under APC Broadcasting Network. That's short for Anosi Prime Coalition Broadcasting Network, APC. Anosi Prime is one of the planets that are in the Guardian of Life world. It's a planet that basically everything bad, old, unwanted is sent to, if they are of age, to survive on their own. It's where people throw any kind of human or otherwise they don't want to deal with, they don't want in their life. Even criminals will get thrown there, or like the elderly, for people who want to get rid of them and don't want nothing to do with them. So it's not a good planet. And I forget the entire aspect of why I created the APC. So you'll have to tune into the books and scour them yourself, since the author doesn't remember. But this is APC Broadcasting Network by Kimberly Sue Iverson. That's moi. Underline the tap, tap, tap of Jack bringing up the current trajectories and determining where they would go once they left Hope on Earth and dealt with Claude. The Kromov domination rumbled gently along, with barely a noise to say so, letting Stone know all systems were running smoothly, despite the beating it took on the ground, as the hooks attempted to keep it there, despite all Claude's former scourge had done to all the panels and parts, despite all it had been through. Stone scanned the interior of the main bridge, admiring the older walls and the new computer systems they installed over all the years on Eliane. Jeremiah was poking about in the instrument panels, ensuring all the cooling of the hull hadn't caused damage. When assured all was decent enough, he went to a chair and dropped down with a sigh. There were small holes in the frame from Claude's disease having raged. So much of the ship would need replacing. Jeremiah began spinning in his magnetic gravity seat he enjoyed. He leaned his head back and mumbled, "I feel old as shit lately." Jack smirked over by the console. "I hear that." When Jack turned toward Stone, his amusement fell, and Jack went back to work. Stone stared at Jeremiah long and hard, attempting to get him to stop spinning, but Jeremiah either purposely ignored him or chose to take the stare as some other meaning. At long last, Jeremiah paused and rose his head. "Gimme a break. I nearly died, remember?" "No," Stone ground out. Jeremiah frowned and met and held Stone's eye as long as possible, then finally let his head fall back, but stopped spinning. The chairs didn't need the extra childish antics. Stone didn't need another part fix. "She'll want to say goodbye," Jeremiah mumbled. "She still hasn't." Jack sunk into his own seat with a heavy sigh. After all that took place, Ellie was still exhausted. She healed Jeremiah and did everything possible for all of them, but Stone ordered her to bed. Despite the protests and wanting to stay with them, she listened to her husband. Not before giving him the stare. One she thought was threatening. One she thought was something he was to fear for later. One she didn't know affected him differently. That yes, they would deal with later. When she healed. Stone punched a button to sunshine and let them all see her on the hologram above his console. Passed out. Hard. He didn't blame her. None of them fully understood what happened out there. Her entire body simply disappeared. Her very life essence was released into the void. Claude's disease did a number on Stone's ship that Ellie couldn't fix. They needed to find parts to repair the old hull and all the damaged parts. Stone fingered the rusted hole in his console. It'd take a while. Ellie's soft inhales and exhales filled the bridge. Stone's eyes rose to the form once more, remaining there for a time. Jeremiah stilled behind him, watching her. To be sure, Stone checked, and he was. That was the effect sunshine held over them all, eased their storms within with her steady warmth, steadied them, gave them purpose. Did it since she was born? No. Before then. God, she's beautiful. I'm glad she survived, Jeremiah whispered in reverence. He checked on Stone to be sure he wasn't in trouble for the comment. To save him, Jack piped up. She is. Daring Stone to say a word or do anything about the comments. When he understood Stone wouldn't do anything to Jeremiah, and that was part of why Ellie's image was currently floating above them on the console to calm Jeremiah, Jack added, "So our wife's essence can drift outward, can it?" A rumble filtered out of Stone. He was going to have to do something about that term. Didn't enjoy them still using it. Jack's lips twitched, knowing full well he provoked Stone. "Knock it off, little brother. She's yours. But if you think for a minute we're giving the rest up, forget it. She's our wife too. I like hugging her. A breath of air escaped from Jeremiah as he suppressed the laugh. He leaned closer to Jack and murmured, "You're gonna get us both killed. Don't include me in that shit." Jack perked a brow. "You don't?" Jeremiah shrugged. "I mean, she gives good hugs." Stone stormed toward Jeremiah and found a block in his way. "Go sit down," Jack warned, straightening up. "We've all been through hell. We're just poking you for fun. Why allow it?" Stone grunted and shoved Jack harshly as he turned away. So hard, Jack fell back in Jeremiah's lap, making Jeremiah grunt. Jeremiah shoved him off. Jack brushed himself off as he stood back up. "Any of us gonna talk about what happened with her?" Jeremiah rose his brow, then slowly turned his head left and right. "Do any of us know?" he dragged out. "Her essence is life," Stone said. "Her flesh dissolved. I never touched her." Jack settled back into his seat with a heavy sigh. "You didn't?" A gentle whisper of breath shifted through the room beneath Jack's words. Ellie adjusted under the covers while asleep, followed by the whisper. Stone's thick finger muted the calm before she finished the name. His eyes held onto the hologram, shifting and rippling in front of them. His body felt her whisper. He didn't need to hear it, nor the other two. More ammo for them to harass. He was worn down. Watching her, knowing that was probably a dream, not her calling out for him. "What do you think about while you dream?" he wondered. Seemed pleasant. He hoped it was pleasant. Ellie, his wife, had been through too much. Stone recalled the way she stood bravely in front of him, awaiting him punching her and throwing her out into the abyss. Then something happened. For years, he watched and studied her. Since childhood, he had known her. So to see her retreat into herself, that he'd known. He relayed it outward to the others as he relived it, watching her form asleep in her bed. A star burst into oblivion, died, exploded. I have no right words. Ellie turned, as if sensing him, and faced the camera. Her hand slid out toward the edge of the bed, though she was still fast asleep. A whisper drifted within him, making the entire world pause. His brothers disappeared. She was all he tuned into. "I'm always here. Right here," he thought to himself. "I'll take care of you until my last breath, and even beyond. I know nothing else but you. You are my entire existence, why I am here." Stone turned to face them, leaning against the console. Jack and Jeremiah were facing the digital image. They saw what took place and were too intelligent not to have known what it meant. The connection between them. Stone felt Ellie as strongly as she always felt him. They said nothing. There was nothing to tease. It simply was. Before he could continue, Jeremiah smirked. I tease you. I'm envious of you. But he pointed to the hologram. That woman is all that matters to any of us, to our very mission. His fingers slid toward Stone. And she'd kill any of us who dare harm. He left it hanging. He meant Stone. You have no idea. Jack's eyes brightened with his amusement. He agreed with that statement. Ellie is no weakling, not at all. Jeremiah couldn't believe it. I like her spunk. Certain people need it. Stone rumbled deeply. Are you done? They silenced, so he went on. When she stood there, I saw her disappear into herself, as if all life drained from her. Her flesh began to glow brighter and brighter until it was like 1,000,000 golden sparks that flew backward. My hands never touched her. They directed her. Jack and Jeremiah exchanged glances. Jack said, You always do. You always will. Stone growled to himself, turned back to the monitor to allow her to calm the rising tide. Idiots. Not what he meant at all. Sunshine. Pure and simple. Which is what happened. He moved on and sat in his large chair behind the console, exhaling a long breath. He hadn't rested since all that took place. He was feeling his age at this point. Losing her almost made him lose everything that mattered. Claude was gone, but not those who created him, who ordered Claude to destroy Kramov. They still had plenty to deal with. That woman was key to helping them. Helping. Yes, he understood it was to help, not to go it alone. They were stronger with her and together, but she needed a way to remain connected to hope too. Maybe not just hope. Jack understood all too well where his thoughts headed. You think we need to try to find others? Jeremiah leaned his head back over his chair, completely devouring the helpless thing with his form. Sprawled out, exhausted, he mumbled, Be a good idea. Yes, whatever we're dealing with, whoever is behind Claude, it or they are not the same. We need information. We need to know how many. Jack leaned forward to place his elbows over his knees and fold his hands one over the other. An index finger rose and pointed to Stone after a time. I think you're right. Claude went through a lot. His brow furrowed as he pinned Stone. What if they are also behind what you went through. Stone tipped his head. Jack followed the point. What if who was behind all of it was a single unit? What if? With an admonishing shake of the head to his aggravating nature, Jack continued. It'd have to be under their radar. The APC, they're not just going to let us reach out through the system. We need to be able to send messages. Encryption can be broken, images retrieved, files downloaded, words known, seen, read. Jack moved to Ellie's sleeping form. Even that old tech Haley smuggled to you, how would one get that across galaxies? Jeremiah made a sound similar to a snore, so they thought he passed out and dismissed it, until he spoke to the ceiling. Music. Stone froze and stared at him. Jack rolled his eyes. Stone grumbled, "Go to sleep." Jeremiah's head rose, and he pinned them both with a hard stare. "I'm tired. Get off my fucking ass." When Stone shifted in his seat, Jeremiah rose his brow. Ellie has never known music. Jeremiah stared at her form, adjusting under the covers. Hope knows Earth. When I've hunted on Earth, music was a big deal to them. What better way for them to connect than have Hope teach Ellie about music with music? And then he left it hanging with, and what better way to remain under the most sophisticated system's nose than a simple song with lyrics and meaning that only people who are seeking to find it within would know. Because who would bother with human music? He pretended to shiver as he considered how the planets believed humans so nasty. Ew, icky. Then, with a huff of air, exhausted again, he flopped back across the chair, ignoring them. Stone stared at the form consuming the chair. Slowly, Jeremiah began to turn the chair to the right, on the path of a spin. Jack's hand grabbed the edge, stilling him. When he was assured Jeremiah wouldn't spin and annoy Stone, Jack let go. Both Stone and Jack stared at one another for a time, then both watched Ellie. Smart, Jack stated. Not just because most of the system would dismiss anything human, but it's so basic and simple, they'd probably not think twice. Frequency and words, Stone rumbled. We could base songs chosen off words and frequency. He kept his eyes on the sleeping form. Some out there can feel what we can't. Ellie could. They can connect in ways only she can. Some have functioning brains, Jeremiah whispered. Stone heard the smirk in his voice. Stone growled toward him. Jack reached over and twisted Jeremiah's chair to face the opposite way. Jeremiah could have stopped it, but went with it instead. Stone wouldn't find amusement in him. Not now. He hadn't yet earned that much. They were still fools. Yes, Jack agreed. Like us, maybe there are others out there right now trying to find information. Maybe they've had their own run-ins with them or it. I think the ones who seek the information will find us. They will be searching for it. And maybe others like Ellie will pick it up. Stone watched the sleeping form. Music. How would she respond to music? He imagined she may like it. Hope introducing her to songs that touched her. The smile Ellie would have on her face. Stone lost himself in the way she may move to a song she liked, or the way she may light up. Would she want him to enjoy one with her? They had dancers on Kramov. He remembered the way some of them moved, his mother joining in. Ellie merged into the image, and those golden eyes lit up as she danced, looking right at him, dancing for him. Stone focused, hard. They could have their own station, and Jack, Jeremiah, and he have their own too. Different information, different music, maybe not just music. What if we could create an entire system right under their nose? Stone said. Jeremiah snapped his fingers his way. I like it. We could each broadcast different information through different stations. Each reach a different person or audience who will seek out exactly what we can send. Full on create a system beneath their nose. News, music, more. Tap into their system as we use ours. They'd never know. This time, he rose his head to regard Stone. Not with you working it. I like it too, Jack nodded. Ellie and Hope could have their very own way to send messages. Hope may know what Ellie would enjoy. Jeremiah stared at the hologram and wistfully stated, She needs that. She's known too much darkness. Hope can give her some beauty that we can't. Realizing how bad that sounded, he stared at Stone, but refrained from apologizing. We are in agreement, Stone stated. We don't know what that is like. Hope does. Her grandmother can remain connected with her. Remembering what they'd been hearing, he added, After all, what she needs isn't what she's known. Jack followed his train of thought. She needs love. She thrives off love, off beauty. What then could our little ball of sunshine be capable of? If she's known pain all her life, though we've been there with her and we've seen what that is so far, what else could she be capable of? What if she learned beauty? Stone agreed. They both stared at Stone for a long time, Jeremiah being the one to say, and an undying love from him. The years crept up on him. Too much to bother to argue that. They'd needed to distance themselves as much as they could. They all worked to keep her safe, thinking that was safest, to remain away, apart. It hadn't just affected her. Trust, too. Stone sighed. We kept her distanced to save her. Now we all need to learn to work together. To keep. He hated what he was about to say. Our wife safe. Jeremiah's lip twitched, but he swallowed it. Only in name, Stone. Only in name. That woman would gouge out my eyes if I tried more than a hug. The smile broke free as he tipped his head toward Jack. She gives good hugs. Jack shook his head, but his eyes gave him away. I'm done protecting you. Then he eyed Stone. She really does give good hugs. Stone rumbled his displeasure. They may not survive much longer.